Good morning, friends. In next couple of minutes, I would be discussing about how to create value, how to enrich your R&D portfolio and intellectual portfolio. While I was listening to my fellow panelists, one question creeped into my mind: why we are discussing about innovation process management, R&D management? And a very simple answer which I could gather was that resources are very limited. And resources are very limited, however, creativity is unlimited. And that's the whole objective. How to maximize the output within the given restricted constants that we have. And that's what I would be focusing in my presentation. Before I take you through my presentation, I would like to start with what we define as R&D success. And the great innovator of 20th century has defined it in very, very crisp fashion. Anything that won't sell, I don't want to invent. Its sale is proof of utility, and utility is success. Through his words, he's emphasizing on commercialization of research and technology. Without any doubt, commercialization is very, very important. However, with time, the dynamics has been changed. Along with commercialization, there are many other parameters which are important. And that's how I define it in terms of R&D effectiveness. It's the impact that you're generating in your business, in your industry, vis-a-vis the investment that you're making in. And there are three important parameters to it. Returns, that's where we call about commercialization. Exclusivity. In research, of course, it's important to run the race, but more important is to win the race. And that's how we talk about creating intellectual property portfolio, patent portfolio. The third aspect, branding and marketing. Gone are the days of early industrial era when you used to invent something, you file a patent, you get a patent, you commercialize it. Things have become different because you find alternate to every technology. You talk about Android, there's an alternate option. You talk about any automotive technology, there's an alternate option. Nowadays, we are talking about renewable energy. People are still debating about photovoltaics, biofuels, or something else. And hence, in light of this, the branding and marketing has become equally important if you want to make your R&D effective. And that's why you think, that's why you listen, terms like sustainability, green technology, recyclability are becoming more and more important in today's scenario. Now, when we are talking about this R&D effectiveness, the question comes, what needs to be done, how it should be done, and why it should be done. And that's how I have created a matrix, and we try to align the overall R&D portfolio management as per this matrix. Now, if you look into the R&D strategy of the companies across the world, you'll find there are two sets of companies. There are one set of companies who define what projects they have to do, and then they define how they have to do it, and then they try to figure out where those projects fit into. And that's why people keep on talking about alignment of R&D with business. The matrix that I want to emphasize on is that we need to start with why. It's a very fundamental question, and if we address this correctly, all the other things would fall in place. Why we are doing it. And this question generally revolves around these three basic drivers, and my colleagues also discussed about those: customer-driven, market-driven, technology-driven. You need to figure out whether a particular R&D project that I'm taking is it customer-driven, is it market-driven, or it's technology-driven. It's very important to figure out because how part is very important, how you are going to do it. And the how strategies are going to become different for each of these three. If I take example of customer-driven, I need to be more focused on what customer wants in terms of cost, in terms of its usability. But when I'm talking about technology, the more emphasis is given on, say, timeless, the exclusivity, or I need to think about that, how I can create competitive edge in the market. Now, if we look at the life cycle, how a technology evolves, there's a framework on technology readiness level. Most of the companies follow this. Now, the point which I'm trying to emphasize is that we need to understand the basic phases, basic research, applied research, production. It's very important that to understand at what stage of R&D my project is. Now, this framework is very much utilized by many industries. And to give you an example, pharmaceutics and FMCG industries are the one which have really mastered of picking up the things from basic research and really putting into the applied research. If you see the pharmaceutical industry, most of the molecules that companies would be commercializing are actually invented in universities and research. The point I'm trying to emphasize is on that we need to understand who could be our potential collaborators across this value chain. And many times people make these assumptions that potential collaborators could be the same. So here, what I'm trying to emphasize on, if you are at TRL 1 to TRL 3, maybe universities, research institutes, experts could be the persons we need to collaborate with. And the growing industry trend, if you see, nowadays is that there are incubation centers put up in the institutes. Now, the objective of putting up this these incubation centers inside the research institute is that kind of building an interface between basic research and applied research, so that people develop more and more interest to pursue those ideas in long-term sustainability, in long-term commercialization. Along with this factor, what is also important nowadays, like Dr. Venugopal was talking about Indian strategy and the global strategy of his company. What is also important, where we are putting up our R&D centers. And I have been listening this, that people are turning up, or the companies are turning up to our India or China for putting up their R&D center just because of low cost. Actually, there is some relevance to this particular context, but what is more important is, I always believe it's a proximity to manufacturing and technology clusters. These are very, very important factors. And by technology cluster, what we mean here is, companies just want to figure out, are there enough collaborators, SMEs, the research institutes, the innovation institutes, whom they can think of collaborating for putting up their research institutes in that particular location. So it's important, because then this whole process speeds up your the research and innovation life cycle. Now, along this, whatever I was talking about how part, what is also important, how we are evaluating our project portfolio. And if you evaluate your project portfolio of R&D, you'll find generally the projects would fall into 4 major categories. Game changer. Now, these type of projects are having high commercial value, and their technical feasibility of success is also very high. These are kind of game changers for the companies. And given they succeed, they create new businesses, new lines of technologies, new companies, new markets. Along with that, there are another categories of projects. We call them white elephants. These projects have very low commercial value. At the same time, they have very low technical feasibility of success. Logically, no company wants to have these white elephants. These are burdens. But the harsh truth is, the bitter truth is, you can't avoid those. And I'll discuss why you can't avoid those. Another projects, what we call as bread and butter. These projects, what we call about, which are driven by market, which are driven by customers. And through these projects, what companies try to do, try to extend the innovation cycle, say by another 2 years. So technology is updated, that's how you see, version 2.1 comes, version 2.2 comes. Now companies are making incremental changes to extend the overall innovation life cycle. And they are oysters. Now these projects have very high commercial value. However, the technical feasibility of success is very low. And people sometimes might feel that we should also avoid those. These projects should not be avoided because these are the projects which get converted to game changer. You need to try more and more of this. Timelines is important for how long you want to try, for how much you want to invest to check the technical feasibility of that success. But these type of projects are very essential. This you can't avoid. These are meant for your sustainability. The objective of showing this, particular chart is we need to evaluate our project portfolio at different stages. And objective is minimize this. This should be populated as less as possible. There should be a healthy balance between these. This should be continuously built. It's very important because this gives you new ideas for game changers. For having this, you need to have a very keen eye on market trends, on your customer needs. You need to have a very good interface between customer and, say, your marketing and sales team. Now, that's what R&D portfolio management. Now, discussing about intellectual property portfolio management, well, I was listening to a couple of presentations yesterday also, and typically when we talk about intellectual property portfolio, people generally concentrate on patent portfolio. And people also talk about generally the cost part of it, like how to reduce the cost. The way I look at it is that the objective of IP portfolio management is to maximize the value creation through different means. And these are very important characteristics. These are very important characteristics. Sometimes people feel the fancy publication is just to develop your peer value in the industry. This can be very good tool to avoid your competitors to get into the space, at the same time having some patents around your base technology. Of course, a judicious call has to be taken whether you are going for a publication or you want to file an incremental invention through patent application. However, the major part that most of the companies ignore in IP portfolio management is trade secrets and know-how. Of course, you can't think of having trade secrets like Coca-Cola is having, but then there is a lot of know-how associated in every company, in every organization. And if you see, if a technology moves from TRL1 to TRL9, how the patent share keeps on reducing, the know-how share keeps on increasing. When we talk about concept stage, embryonic stage of a particular invention, the maximum share we are having is about the patents. As it moves to, say, development, validation, demonstration, production, and of course the commercialization part, what is more important is the know-how share. And surprisingly, you will see there is lesser emphasis given on this part. Now, the point which I'm trying to make is, as you also move up from technology readiness level 1 to 9, this also increases. The potential value of a particular technology when it's at embryonic stage to when it's at a production stage, the potential value of that particular technology increases, and also the complexity. Now, when I'm saying about creating the value, how you can create value through this? I take example of my industry. I come from steel industry. The innovation cycle is generally very long. Many times it takes 8 to 10, many times 15 years from a concept stage till a technology become really marketable. So what we should do? We should not file patents? It's an important question to ask. We get, say, 5, 6 years that we can really think of enforcing our patents, enforcing our technology in the market, creating some competitive edge. But what becomes important for us, of course, patent remains as a base because those are important tools to enforce, to create a competitive edge. What also becomes important, this know-how share. Patent becomes public, and people might think of doing reverse engineering, might coming up with similar processes and products. But if we are giving importance to this particular aspect, we can create another 20 years because of our already existing efforts for which we have generated the patents. Discussing about portfolio strategies. Basically, you look into any companies, there would be two types of portfolio strategies. One we call as invention-driven, another we call as innovation-driven. Invention-driven strategy was very much relevant during industrial era. When you invent something, you file it, it gets commercialized. And the focus used to be on products and processes. However, with time, this is a knowledge-driven economy. Gone are the days when research was used to be concentrated in European parts or US parts. Asian countries have come big time in terms of innovation, research. Universities have come big time in terms of developing innovations. So, and there's a lot of competition. Gone are the days when there were only handful of companies who were innovating. You talk about any technology, you will find there are at least 5 competing technologies. The invention-driven approach may not be effective. What we need to think about, identify your market opportunity, identify your opportunity space, and try to design a portfolio around that. That's going to make the whole patent portfolio more effective. Also, many times we feel there are a lot of technologies, and when we do the landscapes, we find this area is too much crowded. What should we do? There's hardly any space. The way to move forward is try to create some pockets, of course, which don't fall in the already existing territory, and try to create opportunity for cross-licensing. Maybe 5 years down the line, the technology move forward, and there are more opportunities that you can think of cross-licensing with the original technology creators. Like I discussed about, we need to evaluate our R&D project portfolio at regular time. It's very important to evaluate our patent portfolio. And the patent portfolio of any company also falls into 4 major categories. We call it core differentiators. These type of patents have high commercial value. At the same time, they help us to create competitive advantage in the market. There are no substitutes available to our competitors in that particular category. These are the crucial patents, the crucial patent portfolio for any company. Then we have junk and productivity enhancement. What are these patents? The junk patents are, there was a technology existing, but it has become now overdated. The patents that we are having are still valid. They were novel, maybe they are granted also, but they don't hold in today's world. To give you an example, pager technology. When it came, people filed a lot of patent applications on that. But within a span of time, it becomes outdated. That's what we call as junk patents. Those might have a lot of innovation involved in it, but with commercial aspect, they don't bring any value. Then we talk about productivity enhancement. This type of patents are very much relevant for the companies which are having huge setup. You come up with technology and you keep on innovating around your components, manufacturing tools here and there. But those become very much proprietary to your own setup, to your own company. They don't create any competitive advantage in the market as such. So the purpose of filing a patent application gets denied. We need to take a call on that, whether we need to file a patent application on those type of patents or not, and whether we need to retain those also. Then comes the potential business differentiators. These are the patents, these are the patent applications which, if given success, if they see the day of commercialization, they get shifted to core differentiators. These are the patents which are covering technologies under development. And we need to watch carefully, because they may get into core differentiators or they may get into this particular quadrant. And these are what we call as crowded competing technologies. And sometimes people, they have high commercial value, but they may not give you big competitive edge. And the patents that I'm talking about is, they're talking about that there are a lot of alternates available in the market. They're able to give you some value in the market, but you're not able to create competitive edge in the market because there's an alternate available to that, competing alternate. However, this portfolio should not be abandoned. This is very important portfolio, and that's why you will see the consortia in electronics industries are get built. You have something, I have something. If both of us combined, it would create a different value proposition for the industry. Well, I would like to end my note with a quote from Mr. Steve Jobs. A lot of people in our industry haven't had very diverse experiences, so they don't have enough dots to connect, and they end up with very linear solutions without a broad perspective of the problem. The broader one's understanding of the human experience, the better design will have. Well, we are talking about creating a value proposition for the industry and society at large. And as people say, the great words find relevance in every context. I find these words are equally relevant to the context that we are talking about. When we are talking about creating a value proposition, it's very important to understand different dots in these domains: market, technology, and intellectual property. With this, I would like to end my note. Thank you for your time and patience.